Hello, I'm Caroline Kitchens, filling in for Christina Hoff-Summers, but don't worry, the Factual Feminist herself will return for next week's episode. Now, anyone who's spent any amount of time on the internet can tell you that it's often not the best place for intelligent debate. There are a lot of trolls, and they seem to attack just about everyone. But recently, feminists and journalists have seized on some disturbing incidents and factoids to claim that there is a larger patriarchal effort to silence women online. Amanda Hess says that the cyber harassment of women is the civil rights issue of our time. The conservative New York Times columnist Ross Douthat called Hess's story a candidate for the most troubling magazine essay of 2014. And with the exception of just a few skeptics, nobody has checked the facts. Now, there's no question that women sometimes suffer severe harassment and abuse on the internet. But when you look at the evidence, there is no indication that online harassment is either A, systematic, or B, that it's limited to women. Amanda Hess and other activist bloggers cite data from an anti-abuse advocacy group which claims that 72.5% of people who reported online harassment incidents were women. But as libertarian writer and feminist Cathy Young showed in Reason magazine, this data was rigged from the start. First of all, it looks at reported cases of harassment. But what if women are simply more likely to classify an incident as harassment and to report it than men might be? Second, and more importantly, there were only an average of 288 victims identified per year. That's too many, but when you consider the hundreds of millions of women who use the internet, that's not really an epidemic. So let's look at a more serious study. According to a Pew survey, 13% of women said that they had been stalked or harassed online. But so did 11% of men. In the same study, 5% of women said that something happened to them online that led them into physical danger. 3% of men said the same. These gaps are small, and they're well within the poll's margin of error. Another study from a British think tank tracked tweets sent to a sample of celebrities, journalists, and politicians. The researchers found that men were more likely to be victims of abusive tweets than women. In particular, male politicians received more than 6 times as many abusive tweets as female politicians. Now, these studies are not definitive, but they suggest that men might make up a non-trivial percent of victims. There's also no concrete evidence that the perpetrators are usually male. The British researchers found that about 40% of the abusive tweets sent to women were sent by other women. And anyone who has ever incurred the wrath of the feminist blogosphere will tell you that online attacks perpetrated by those who call themselves feminists, even to other feminists, those attacks can also be relentless, vicious, sexualized, even violent. In an excellent piece for The Nation, Michelle Goldberg explains that the feminist blogosphere has devolved from a freewheeling, liberating place to a toxic environment where feminists viciously police one another's righteousness. Michelle Goldberg likened it to a Maoist hazing. Well, you could also draw some comparisons to Mean Girls.
Gina, you're wearing sweatpants. It's Monday.
So?
So that's against the rules, and you can't sit with us.
What happens when men run afoul of the feminist thought police? Well, Cathy Young has shown that they are routinely subject to gender-based, sexualized comments, and it's not uncommon for them to be accused of being perverts or sexual predators. I mean, just look at the types of responses Dr. Phil received last year when he sent out a tweet that was viewed as insensitive to rape victims. Women tend to live in greater fear of sexual violence than men. So it's completely understandable that they might take online threats more seriously, and it's also understandable that we as a society would want to protect them. But the bottom line is that, as a whole, women are thriving online. Alarmism over the so-called cyber war on women causes us to police speech and to censor legitimate criticism as well as just mild, non-threatening insults. No one should have to endure serious harassment and threats to their safety, online or otherwise. But female bloggers and journalists are smart and resilient. We are not fragile victims who need to be protected from online trolls and offensive speech. Well, what do you think? Do you believe that the internet is an unsafe place for women? Have you or anyone you know been attacked by sexist trolls? Let us know what you think in the comments section. We hope that you will subscribe to the series and also follow and interact with the Deputy Factual Feminist and also Christina Hoff Sommers, the Factual Feminist herself, on Twitter. Thank you for watching The Factual Feminist. And remember, check your facts, not your privilege.